And so we have also seen an increase in the number of emergency room visits, particularly with teenagers who have ingested these products. So the legislative efforts had initially been directed at the different types of chemicals that were known to be used by the drug manufacturers. And so actually, if you pick up some of these packages and you flip them over, you'll see that they claim that, this package does not contain GWH-18, GWH-222. They'll have various numbers because those are the chemical descriptors. The next iteration of laws really attempted to say all of the ones that we know, in addition to anything else that could be an analog, a derivative of those. What we're trying to do with the current legislation is to even move one step, beyond that, which is to say anything that is a synthetic drug that is intended to be taken and is taken by people internally is simply outlawed. And so our goal is to really take this out of, in some ways, the criminal code, out of a requirement to do the testing, but to recognize that you might put a sticker on this that says it's not for human consumption, but nobody is paying $100 for a container of potpourri. Nobody has ever actually used this for that purpose. The purpose they've used it for is to get high, and unfortunately far too many children have become very sick, and some have even died. We certainly know that, many of the stores that we go to, it's the gas stations, the convenience stores, the tobacco stores. Certainly prior to January 1st, there probably wasn't a store we went into where they were not selling the synthetic marijuana. Oftentimes they were also selling the synthetic cocaine, the bath salts. That at the time was not necessarily displayed on the counter. You'd have to ask for it, and sometimes it was under the counter, sometimes it was in a back room, and they would go get it for you. What I can tell you is now, at this point, I would say on average 50% of the stores we're going in are still selling these products even though they are illegal in the state of Illinois. I would argue that it is certainly not the intention of most states that they are legal at all, but as was described, to some extent the law has been chasing the development of these products. And so what the drug makers then do is if they look at a law and they say, well, here are the chemicals that have been outlawed, well, we'll just reformulate it again. And obviously the concern with that is twofold, not just that they're evading the law, but now they're using chemicals that are even less known, even less understood, and we don't know what those reactions are going to be when somebody ingests them. And so, the more attenuated this becomes, the worse the problem is. And the DEA does, in fact, have a ban on certain chemicals, and we have, in fact, been working with the feds. But you can understand the problem. This is very lucrative for the people who are selling this. I mean, the amount of money they are making is, in the hundreds of thousands of dollars a month. And so we are going to continue to have to work on the law enforcement side to reduce the supply, and in addition work on raising awareness with the media and others, to also reduce the demand. It is, as somebody said, it is a similar problem in terms of how we have to attack, this drug, any other drug. You've got to deal with both sides of the equation. This is definitely a problem throughout the state of Illinois. There's no region, no area of the state that is not, been untouched. We found this in Chicago, in the suburbs, central Illinois, southern Illinois, western Illinois, northern Illinois. And unfortunately, it's not just that we're finding the drugs. We're finding that children have died because they've taken these drugs.
And does Mr. Brockman that you named, does he face charges? And to what extent is it a problem to bring prosecution against individuals selling this?
We're continuing to investigate. Sure. Well, we're continuing to investigate and work our way up the chain here, so to speak. So it will remain to be seen what charges may be filed against him. I can tell you that in general, the chemicals that, for instance, are sprayed on the plant material to manufacture the synthetic marijuana, which tends to go by the name of K2 or spice, probably the largest producer of those chemicals is China. Those chemicals are then shipped into the country. They are then, diluted, constituted, sprayed onto the plant material, and so the manufacturing process, from what we can tell, tends to take place here, but the actual manufacture of the chemicals, for the most part, that we are aware of, is taking place out of the country.
Do we have any